Shadow Environment Minister Senator Jonathon Duniam, Senior Fellow at the Menzies Research Centre, columnist at The Australian, and now currently short-term resident overseas, Nick Cater. Well, welcome to you both. Jono, let's start with that protest today outside of Kirribilli House, a whole lot of climate protesters demanding the Prime Minister reject new coal and gas projects. Let's look how much money they give us in the budget next week, because a new poll is out there revealing that Labor's losing faith with climate zealots and more, but also ordinary Australians. They're not happy either. The SEC Newgate New to the Nation poll found that only 57% of people support Labor's new emissions targets for 2030. That's down from 64% in February. And support for net zero, well, it's down to 56%. The activists aren't happy and ordinary Australians aren't happy. That's not a good place to be for the government.
No, certainly not, Peter. Those numbers do prove, or indeed the images you're playing at the moment prove two things for me. The first one is that you will never appease the zealots. We could go back to living in caves and getting about on the backs of donkeys and they still wouldn't be happy, so they should abandon pursuit of trying to appease this crowd. Secondly, it proves that if a government goes about its business continuing to ignore what actually matters to the majority of Australians, and in this case it is the cost of energy, and sacrificing addressing that issue in pursuit of their ideological goals, you are going to lose the support of the voters. Those numbers bear that out. So hopefully, maybe ahead of the budget and the coming parliamentary sittings, Labor will adjust its course. But I highly doubt it. I think we're going to stick to the plan, and that is to force renewables down the throats of people when they can't afford them.
Nick, you're coming to us tonight from Helsinki in Finland. They're pushing ahead with nuclear power. They've just recently switched on their newest reactor. So what's the latest? What can we learn from Finland?
Well, Peter, I mean, right now, the Finnish electricity grid is about 90% low carbon. Now, that's ahead of where Chris Bowen wants to get to in 2030, and we are not going to get anywhere near that with renewables alone. So how's Finland done it? Well, hydro and nuclear. They opened the new Olkiluoto plant, the new Olkiluoto reactor last year, and that's pumping out about 2 gigawatts of energy constantly. It's one of the most efficient reactors in the world. And the other thing, Peter, is that electricity here is relatively cheap for Europe. It's about 17 euro cents a megawatt. That's about 40% cheaper than it is in Germany, where they've gone the renewables route. In fact, if you look at the table of energy prices in Europe, every country that has cheap energy in Europe, or cheap electricity in Europe, has got either nuclear or a lot of hydro, more hydro than Australia could ever build. So it's quite clear there's only one route, and it is the cheapest route, and that's what the Europeans are discovering.
Oh, well done for this, Nick. Good on you for being over there. This will be fantastic while you're away. Hey, Jono, this talk that the government's not going to charge electric vehicles for using our roads. Of course, electric vehicles pay nothing through the excise on petrol to maintain roads. They're not going to do it till after the election. This looks like a vote grab to me.
Oh, Peter, I think you'd be on the money there. I mean, look, no one likes a new tax, of course, but fair's fair. You're using roads, essential infrastructure. We have to pay for them like road users have for time immemorial. But of all the taxes to delay until after an election, I think speaks volumes. And if we could run the numbers over where the prevalence of EV drivers happen to be, I reckon we'd find them in the seats where Labor are fighting off Green candidates and worried about losing votes to them. I reckon there's a fair degree of interplay there, and call me a sceptic, but I reckon you're right. It is a vote grab.